Hello everyone, my name is Greg Clouse. I'm the recruiting manager with BioSpace. As most of you are aware, probably all of you are aware, BioSpace is the #1 news service in the life sciences industries. We're also the largest career portal with over 700 companies advertising jobs with us last year and over 2 million visits to our site just in the month of March alone. I myself have actually been in the recruitment industry for over 25 years, and during that time, I constantly get and have always gotten the question about how to handle negotiating a job offer. So we're going to go through that today and talk a little bit about what to expect there and some things you can do to help prepare yourself for that. But before we actually get into the negotiation itself, let's talk a little about what is actually negotiable. So BioSpace actually did a survey recently with the companies that advertise with us, and we've got a little bit of information about that, and I wanted to share with you folks. As expected, 90% of the companies that are hiring will actually negotiate salary with you. So it's not something that's unusual, and it is something that obviously the company and you expect to deal with. But there are also many other things that companies are experiencing at this point in the negotiation process. The number 2 and number 3 thing, actually, we're both at almost 40% of the companies said they do talk about this or do negotiate this through the offer process, and that is the flexible work arrangements and remote work arrangements. So if you're looking for some time to work from home or you want some unusual hours or something like that, 40% of them said that they actually would consider those through the negotiation. 36% said they would consider time off. So PTO, vacation time, is something that they are dealing with. 36% of the companies said that they are willing to negotiate that. 34% they said they are willing to talk about bonuses, sign-on bonuses, performance bonuses, relocation bonuses. That's on the table for a lot of companies, and even 17% said that equity could be part of the negotiation. Maybe not surprising in our industry, as there are a lot of new companies and new startups in play. A lot of those in particular will talk about that, so the size and complexity of the company could certainly impact their willingness to negotiate. But keep all those things in mind as you're going through this. It isn't just about salary. Now, as you get into the actual negotiation itself, you're going to want to get yourself ready for that. Remember, companies aren't looking for you specifically necessarily. They have skill sets, a role they're trying to fill. So when you're looking for your next opportunity, you should be looking for the type of role that you want to fill within that company. Then you should be doing research on that role. What is the actual fit? What's the market value of that particular role in the area that you're looking? So there are a couple of things that are going to impact that. One, of course, is geography. So where you're located at is going to dictate a lot about what that salary is. In some parts of the world and country are certainly going to pay differently than in other parts. So if you're looking for a specific role, for example, in San Francisco or New York City, you would expect that those roles would pay more than if that role was, say, in Des Moines, Iowa, or Oklahoma City or something like that. Another thing that could affect that is supply and demand. So if you are performing a role that's in high demand right now, you might expect to get a higher salary than if you're performing a role where there's lots and lots of talent available to perform that function. And that can be affected by geography. Certain parts of the country might have certain kinds of skills more than others. It can be affected by a lot of other things, certainly the specific skill sets. So keep those things in mind and do some research on the particular position you're looking for as you get into that. But then at the same time, you want to look and see what is your particular value that you're bringing to the table. Do you bring extra years of experience maybe, or maybe you bring a higher education level than they're specifically looking for? A lot of times you'll see companies, they'll say must have this, but prefer this. So if you've got a lot of the prefers, you might be able to push yourself to the top of their salary structure. The other thing are some intangible skills that might be out there. Do you have a lot of leadership experience? Is that being asked for in this particular role? Can you really bring some strength there to the table? Communication skills is another thing that a lot of companies are looking for now with a lot of different roles. If you're particularly good at that, you can show that. Your particular skill sets might affect that as well. Now, when should you actually start the negotiation process? A lot of people are going to think about, when should we start this process? I would tell you really should start thinking about it before the interview actually starts. So if you're going to be interviewing with a company, you're going to want to do some research on that particular company. For example, how do they pay compared to the market? Do they typically pay better? Do they pay a little bit worse? Are they right on average? You can find a lot of published information about that, and there are probably reviews and things out online. They might actually publish the wages right on the posting. Not a lot of people do that, but some people do. Maybe you know people who have worked there in the past who are working there currently who can give you some sense of that as well. You might be able to get some information from them. During the interview, some things are going to happen that's going to make you wonder if the negotiation just started. This happens probably to all of us nowadays. You get into that first interview, particularly if it's human resources, and they'll ask you, what are your income expectations? What salary are you looking for in this role? They've actually opened up. So did they just start negotiating with you? They probably did. They might not think about it that way, and you certainly aren't going to be prepared for the negotiation yet. You don't even know if you want the job yet. But they have kind of opened up the conversation as much as possible. You want to try not to get caught here. If you can, give them some kind of answer. You really don't know probably yet what your salary expectation is, so you can tell them that. I'm here really to look at the opportunity to explore the company and my fit within this role. If it seems like a great fit for everybody and we're all excited about it in the end, I'm sure salary will come together. That's a fairly common answer now. I think a lot of people try to do some variation of that. Most human resources people, especially the very experienced and savvy ones, probably won't let you get away with that. You're going to have to come up with some kind of range. If you know the market range from the research you've done, you can certainly give them that market range. You can also turn it back around on them, or you can attempt to do that. You know what? That's a great question. I'm not really sure what you guys are paying for this role. Can you share that, what the pay range is with me, and see if they'll open up and tell you what the expectation are. Most people consider the negotiation to really start once you have the offer, or maybe even once you actually give them a counteroffer. And we'll get into that here in a minute, but before we get into that, I wanted to ask you a simple question. Do you really want the job? There's no reason to get into this. There's no reason to put yourself through the process. And frankly, it's probably not fair to the company just to start negotiating a job you don't want. If you know you don't need the job or don't want the job, then you probably shouldn't even get into this process. You can say that at any time. It can be early in the interview. Whenever you know you don't want the job, you should probably pull yourself out. During the interview, before it starts, during the negotiation, when the negotiation starts, right at the end. Whatever the case might be, if you are to the point that you know that's not a fit for you, step away. Don't feel trapped. Don't feel pressured to accept or to move forward if you already know the answer. Again, that's not fair to yourself, but it's also not fair to the company to keep them thinking that they have an opportunity to get you if in fact they can't. So some of the things to consider before we actually start talking about the negotiation itself is, who are you actually negotiating with? Companies don't necessarily negotiate, people do. So let's understand who's across the table from us and who we're talking to. The first and most common person you're going to be talking to through the offer process is the human resources professional. They've been here before. They've heard it all before. They've seen every tactic. Most of these folks, you're not going to hurt their feelings. You're probably not going to upset them. The best way to handle human resources usually is just to be pretty straightforward, pretty blunt, help them understand what it is you're trying to do and where you're coming from, be able to justify your position with them, and they'll probably work with you. After all, they've made you an offer, so they want you on the team. Now it's just a matter of how can we make that work. If you're actually talking to the hiring manager through this process, it's a little different. This is the person who's going to affect your career the most over the next few years. They're hopefully someone who can teach you a lot, and your relationship is starting with them. So we want to be a little bit more careful here, and we want to be a little bit more cognizant of that as we go through that. The third party that might have some impact on this is the senior management team, or whoever it is that's holding the purse strings in this particular case. You probably aren't negotiating with them directly. You're doing it through one of the other parties we mentioned, but they are going to have an impact on this role, and it's good to be cognizant of the fact that they're at play here. The one thing I would tell you, no matter who you're talking to through this process, make sure that they understand you want this job. And I would just tell them that. I'm excited about this opportunity. I'm excited about people I met. I think I'm a great fit for this job, and I really want it. I know there are some things we'll have to work out here through the negotiation, but I want to let you know that right up front. I think it's important for them to understand you want the job. They're going to be a lot more open, and it's going to be a little bit easier to get this done if everybody knows you're excited too. Jumping right into the negotiation. The first thing I think that you want to think about is how much time has actually passed. Have you been doing this for a while? Most interview processes take weeks to get through. So this isn't something that's snuck up on you. You've had time to think through this. Do you want the role? Do you want to work for this individual? Is this company somewhere where you fit? Are you excited about this? And you should know all of that before you actually get to a formal monetary offer. All those questions should already be answered. If they're not, and you still have questions there, you want to try to get that resolved before you get a monetary offer. It'll make this process easier for you. The next thing you want to talk about is, if you've got the offer, you're excited about it, you know you want it, and there are things about the offer that you would like to get adjusted. You want to do that all at the same time if possible. Companies hate it when you keep coming back with one more thing. So I've got the offer. Let's say I've received it. Thanks so much for the offer. I'm really excited about the company. I'm excited about the role. I'm excited about everyone I met, and I can't wait to get started. However, there are a couple of things that I would like to discuss. I really was looking for a salary that was X amount of dollars more than you've offered here. So the company goes and they get you that offer and they raise it up and they bring it back to you. And the other thing I wanted was vacation. I'm currently getting 4 weeks of vacation. You're only offering 2. I'd like to see that at least increase by 1 more week. So the company goes and they get you 1 more week. Oh, you know what? That's great. Thanks so much for getting me that extra vacation. But I wanted to really work from home a couple days a week, and so I wanted to see if that was something we could do. Can we actually put that in the offer? And you just keep coming back with 1 more and 1 more. Right? The company's going to get so frustrated with you, and they're not going to want to move forward anymore, and they're going to, at some point, they're just going to throw their hands up. They might even move on to a different candidate because you're driving them crazy at this point. You want to actually just bring all those things to the table at once. I'd like to increase the salary. This is what I was really looking for in this role. This is why I think I deserve it. Here's my vacation package is a little bit less than what I'm getting now. I'd like to see that at least meet what I was at before, or whatever the number might be. Also, we've talked about this through the process, and I'm really looking for an opportunity where I can work a certain number of days at home. I don't see that in the offer. Can that be addressed as well? The most important thing to me is, of course, as I've said a number of times, I want to get a couple of days from home. I want to see that addressed, and then of course I need to get that salary to meet it. So I've given it to them all at one time. I've prioritized it. I want to have it. I want to work from home first, but I need to get that salary too. When they come back, they know how to address you with it. If you just give them everything at once and then they come and let them decide, they might not come back with the things you want. So say you give them 4 things you'd like adjusted, they come back with 2 of them. They've met what you needed on 2 of them, feel like they're meeting you in the middle, but in your mind, those 2 things they're just kind of extras. They weren't the important ones, so they didn't really meet you in the middle, but you didn't tell them that, so they don't know. So make sure that they understand that. The other thing I would tell you is, do you even really need to negotiate? If they come up with an offer to you that's everything that you needed, and more importantly, maybe everything you wanted, do you really need to go out and try to get one more thing? I mean, it's a little thing. It's not really important to me, but I feel like I should ask something. You don't have to. If you're excited about the opportunity, you're excited about the offer, you can just accept it. You don't have to negotiate. Don't negotiate just for the sake of negotiation, and don't negotiate just to get little tiny things that aren't important to you anyway. The last thing I would leave you with, I brought this up before, but I think you want to make sure through this process that everyone knows that you want the job. The one reason for that, frankly, is you're much more likely to get what you're looking for, to get the best offer possible, if they know you want the job. They're much more likely to do somethif for you if you can keep their excitement level as high as your excitement level is. So you can certainly do something along the lines of, you know what, I'm so excited about this. This is a great fit for me. I've wanted to work for this company for a while. This is going to be a great opportunity. There are a couple of things that I would like to talk about and get adjusted in the offer, but I want to let you know right up front, I'm very excited about this. They're much more likely to do something for you there than if you just say, you know what, let me think about this and I'll get back to you. They don't even know if you really want the job at that point. So you want to make sure that they're with you, that you guys are working together to make this happen, that you're not working against each other. And be ready for tough questions as you go through this process. Don't let anything sneak up and surprise you through this. Keep in mind, when you're getting these questions, you want to try to figure out what they're really asking you. So many companies will ask you, do you have other interviews going? Do you have other offers out there? They probably wouldn't ask you this question if they weren't interested in you. They wouldn't care if you had other offers or interviews if they didn't want to move forward with you. So you can use this to actually even speed up the process. So yes, in fact, I do have other interviews going on right now, and I even actually have another offer with the company. I'm very excited about what you have on the table here, and if it's true, then I would even tell them, you're my number 1 choice, or at the top of my list, and I wanted to see what you could do as well. They might actually speed up their process, or speed up their offer process, or speed up their interview process to try to get into the game or even ahead of the game. It's an opportunity maybe for you to hurry things along if that's what you need to do to go, just by being upfront with them. Another question that you'll get sometimes, and this is what they will call a pre-close, and more companies are doing this, frankly, is if we made the offer to you today, would you accept it? Is that question really fair? Did they really ask me that? Am I ready for this question? They probably know they're putting you on the spot. What they really want to know is, do you want the job? Again, the questioner's intent. Do you want the job? And they're just asking you up front and hoping you'll say yes. Again, it's probably to your advantage that they ask this. They want to know. You can use this. Yes, I'm excited about this opportunity. I think it's a great fit for me. Of course, money is going to come into play, and whatever the monetary offer is going to impact this. But I would say from the role itself, from the people involved, I think this is a great fit for me. You can use that to your advantage. They know you don't have the money offer yet. They know you're not really ready to answer that question. They just want to know where you're at. How soon will we hear from you? Once you have the offer in hand and you've told them how much you like them, how soon can you get back to us? They want you, right? So they want to know. You can actually give different indications with this, and not that any of it's wrong, but you can make them feel differently about it. So thank you so much for the offer. As I've said a couple of times, I'm very excited about this. I think it's a great fit for me. I do need to go home, though, and discuss it with my spouse, my support network, and then I'll get back to you first thing in the morning. That's a different response, right? Then, you know what? Thanks so much for the offer. Again, as I mentioned, I'm excited about this opportunity. I think it's a great fit. I do need to take this back and analyze it a little bit compared to some of the other offers that I have in hand. I should be able to get back to you within the next few days. That's a different feeling, right? That's a different kind of answer. Now, both of them are viable. If you've been honest and forthright through the process, neither one of those should necessarily surprise the company, but they do give off a little bit different vibe. And the last thing I would lead you with, do not lie. Do not mislead through the process. Besides just being unethical, frankly, it can come back to bite you. You probably will get caught. You don't want to get yourself into a situation where you're contradicting yourself, telling them one thing one time and a different thing later. It confuses the company and certainly lowers your value in their eyes. If you get caught in a lie, you probably just lost that opportunity. So if it's something you're excited about and you didn't tell them the whole truth, and maybe you just fudged your numbers a little bit or did something like told them you had other offers and you don't, and it comes out later, you're out. You're not somebody they can trust, and so they're not going to move forward with you. Other things that might constrain the company that you have to think about as you're going through this process are some of their internal situations. So let's say that they're looking at you along with many other people, and they're going to hire a bunch of people into one role. You probably don't have the ability to negotiate a lot for salary and things in that case. Everybody that's going to get that role is probably going to get the same offer or something very similar. You might be able to adjust some smaller things. Maybe you can work from home a little bit. Maybe you can get a bonus. There's some other things, but you're probably not going to impact salary much in that case. Their internal budget is going to be in play. Every hiring manager has a budget they're trying to live within, and you might not be able to get everything you're looking for because they just can't offer it to you. Again, you might be able to adjust some other aspects of the offer, but you might not be able to play with salary much. Now, in both of these situations, though, one of the things you might be able to do, if you can show how you're bringing a lot different kind of value or a unique skill set to play that they're not expecting from this, maybe you can get them to rewrite a role for you, or maybe you can adjust a level or something like that that might allow you to have more flexibility in that negotiation. The other thing you have to think about is how do you fit within the company. So are there other people across that level or that grade inside the company? They're not going to be able to blow the program up for you if they're trying to fit you and slot you within it. So if their internal equity situation is going to be adjusted by you, they probably aren't going to have a lot of play there as well. There's some things that you're maybe not thinking about that are tying them down a little bit. And the last thing I would leave you with is, remember, it's not a competition. There's not a winner and a loser in this usually, and it's not personal. If you can't get what you need, and you can't always get what you need, then you should probably just go ahead and walk away. I mentioned earlier, that's not fair to the company. It's not fair to you if you keep trying to push something. If it can't work, it can't work. Unfortunately, sometimes that happens. Now remember, if you got the offer, they liked you. They're excited about you. You wouldn't have the offer if they didn't like you. Again, it's not personal. The personal aspect is they like it, they like you, they like your fit, you have the offer. Hopefully now you can just get the numbers to come together. And don't fixate on one aspect or one dollar amount as you go through this. As we mentioned earlier, there are many, many things that you can do to adjust that. Salary is negotiable, but 40% of the company said flexible time and remote work is adjustable. You can get bonuses. There are other things you can do to maybe make that offer work for you. Avoid making ultimatums. You can't take it back. If you tell a company they have to do this or you have to have that, and then you find out later there's something about that makes that not quite as important, or there's something that can come into play that you weren't thinking about originally that could make that better, it's too late. You already said it. You want to avoid that. If you can't take it back, don't say it. Try to avoid that if you can. And remember, things do change. As you go through this process, what you started with isn't always necessarily what you're going to end with. Maybe the role's been adjusted, maybe their situation has adjusted. Certainly budgets can change, and things like that can impact the negotiation itself and how that goes. Maybe you had a preconceived notion of how this was going to go because you had a friend or a colleague who used to work at this company and they told you how their experience went, and this is completely different. Certainly interview processes and all those different things can change. Keep all those things in mind as you're going through, and remember, again, it's not a competition. The best case scenario, frankly, is when everyone wins. I will be here at the booth during the show, and many of my colleagues here from BioSpace will be here. All my contact information is also written right there on the screen for you and on the presentation itself. Feel free to reach out to me with any questions or concerns. And thank you again for coming to the Talent Connect today. We appreciate your visit, and good luck on that next offer.